Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I know you are very tired, so I ask you to smile. Please give me your best smile. Thank you. You are all so unusual in blue, like real avatars. I come to you not with empty hands. There is a magic box in my hands. We will turn to it later.
Елена Марченко, trainer of the Center of Excellence. She is an acting certified trainer of the third and second levels of multi-level in-service training programs for the pedagogic staff of the Republic of Kazakhstan.
Do you remember your first model lesson? I remember it very well. First graders, literacy lesson. 25 pupils, 25 guests. After the lesson, one of the teachers asked me, "Why don't you smile?" I thought. Indeed, I was worried. I doubted.
Сомневалась, стоит ли мне.
Should I think that everything will turn out? I was waiting for the assessment of my lesson and myself.
Себе, как учителю.
Is it possible that everything would be different? Someone will answer no. Everyone must go through this. Others will say yes. How to do it? Now I know it for sure. Lesson study will help. What an interesting combination of words. So unusual. Now we tell about them differently. Lesson study approach is the study of lesson.
Lesson study is the process of improving the quality of lesson, teaching and learning, which includes lesson planning, lesson plan discussion, analysis of the lesson conducted, and discussion carried out after the lesson.
What could be simpler
Проще
than the joint activities of teachers on planning, observation, and thinking about the lesson? This approach was developed in Japan in the late 19th century and became widespread in the 20th century. It is a leading professional approach in teacher training. At this time, it is currently actively used in the USA, Great Britain, Singapore, South Korea, China. How did it attract the attention? This approach is confirmed by high results of learning of Japanese school children.
Итак,
Let's talk about the concept of lesson study.
это процесс.
This is an educational process, the process of learning of the lesson. It consists of certain milestones. Firstly, it is the lesson planning by a group of teachers, by team, discussion of the lesson plan and improvement of this plan. Then, conduction of the lesson itself and respective monitoring of this process. This is the lesson study. After this, discussion of the results of monitoring in order to develop new ideas about improving teaching and learning. Let us return to the problems of model lesson.
Уроку открытому.
What do you hear most often at the end of the lesson? Thank you, good lesson, or silence. And sometimes when our colleagues come out of the classroom, an active discussion begins. Did you see how she did it? I would apply this method actively. I would never do like this in my practice. Well, may it really improve teaching? Something tells me that it may not.
Хотя
Let's imagine that teachers gathered together.
собрались вместе.
Those who will conduct a lesson and those who will attend it.
Они
They come together to use the lesson study approach. What can they start from? Let's address our magic box. I think it will help us. So, we must begin, of course, with the formation of a team, a group of lesson study. How many teachers can form this team? Possibly 3 or possibly 6. Why not more than 6? Because 6 is the most optimal number for sharing effective interaction.
эффективного взаимодействия.
So, the team should be joined by a general idea, a common problem, the problem of learning or teaching, the problem of one subject
Или
or more. This should be interesting for teachers. This should bother them. So, the team is ready to work. What's next? Next is the second step. It is planning. Look at the clean white sheet of paper. It can form any idea, any thought. But nothing ends here. After the lesson planning, there should be an active discussion of it. Improvements should be made and the lesson plan should be changed. And now, a blank sheet of paper turns into a specific project. Project which have to be implemented in practice. What shall we remember while joint lesson planning?
Совместное планирование урока.
Firstly, a group of teachers need to set the goal of teaching.
Группой учителей.
Goal of teaching should be about learning, not teaching. Teachers must determine what pupils should know and what they can do at the end of the lesson. After it is necessary to think about how the lesson will achieve these objectives, what approaches, what methods, techniques can help it. And one more thing in planning is to develop a plan of observation, research plan. Teachers need to decide what they will watch over, what evidence of learning they will collect. What can be evidence of learning? It may be some notes in lesson plan. After all, the lesson plan has been developed jointly and it is available for everyone. Pictures and video clips from the lesson may also serve as evidence, which demonstrates pupils' reaction to certain tasks, to teachers' questions.
Это
These are the observations that we can carry out, both for individual pupils and for those who are interesting for us in these lessons. So, the lesson plan is made up. The next step that needs to be done is to conduct of the lesson itself. And of course, the subject shows you that this lesson was held under close observation.
под пристальным наблюдением.
But tell me please, colleagues, what is the main difference of the lesson? The difference is that research lesson study, makes observation not over activities of the teacher, not over teaching, but over training of pupils.
Обучением школьников.
Observers can see those expected results which they plan to see during the lesson.
Имеют место быть или нет?
Then, you should take the next step in this process. And this magical sheet prompts us. It is the analysis of the observation results obtained. Teachers get together to discuss those results, to draw conclusion if all the planned strategies and objectives of learning have been achieved, if they contributed to it, and accordingly, if it is still necessary to improve the lesson or if we need to stop. If the observation may look like not only as a note on the sticker, but all that I have listed above will be taken into account while the discussion. You, my colleagues, should realize that the lesson study approach has a certain cycle. Cycle, which is to be done once or is needed to be repeated several times. Lesson study experts argue that the cycle should be repeated at least 3 times. Otherwise, what's the point to get together, to discuss one lesson and then change nothing? Doing the cycle 3 times will let everyone or almost everyone improve teaching.
Улучшить преподавание и обучение.
After the cycle is held at least 3 times, what it is worth considering? Should we make our knowledge, our lesson study open or not? Should we keep and protect it? I think it is worth. After all, our teachers, our colleagues, have the right to improve their own learning approaches. How to do it? Here could be many options. Perhaps the group will meet and publish a brochure that will include observation materials. Maybe it will be a disc with the necessary fragments of the lesson. Maybe teachers will speak in front of colleagues and publicly share those materials that they have made.
Которые ими сделаны.
So, What is unique about lesson study? I will refer to the opinions of teachers who have tried this approach. Teachers with little work experience liked the introduction of lesson study, as the responsibility for planning and conduction of the lesson lies not only on one teacher, but on the whole group. This gives them confidence. The lesson study group analyzed the first lesson, met in an informal environment, found a mistake. The next lesson will be carried out tomorrow. An experienced teacher volunteered to conduct it. We took into account mistakes of the first lesson, checked all strategies. The results of lesson study have gladdened not only me, but also my colleagues from the planning group and observers of the lesson. My colleagues like this approach. They were able to appreciate the importance of observation skills and offered to include it in the annual work plan of Methodical Association. I hope lesson study will become a tradition for us. I think it is the brightest reviews, the most vivid impressions, and a compelling evidence that lesson study approach can also be used in our schools. So, should we conduct a lesson study
Урок. Lesson study.
or not? I'll give 3 reasons according to which lesson study is worth time and efforts. The first reason is a joint activity of teachers. Opportunity to improve specific practices of teaching and to solve specific problems of training of our pupils. Secondly, it is an opportunity to share materials with colleagues and improve teaching not only of a lesson study group of teachers, but also of many others because they can adapt the materials in their own practice. And thirdly, the ability to create community for learning teaching practices that will allow you to effectively communicate and while interacting to improve the process of teaching and learning of pupils. Let's go back to our lesson.
Любой урок, будь он открытым или проводи его каждый день,
We need to hear the review about any lesson,
отзыв об уроке.
whether it is Model 1 or is conducted every day. What do you want to hear after the lesson? It was a bad lesson? Nothing special? Or great experience? If you choose the last answer,
Отличная практика.
lesson study approach is for you. Thank you for your attention.